Okay, picture this. You've got it all planned out. The perfect trip booked, maybe somewhere vibrant, exciting, like Medellín, Colombia.
Hmm.
You've got the dates, the flights confirmed, the hotel waiting. You can almost, smell the coffee.
Yeah, that feeling of anticipation, right?
Yeah,
All that planning and the money,
yeah,
but also just the excitement.
exactly. But then, bam, life throws you a curveball, a medical emergency pops up, totally unexpected,
Huh.
and suddenly that dream trip, impossible, you have to cancel. And just like that, you're facing this, crushing loss.
We're talking serious money here.
Yeah, something like $2,500, which, for context, is around 2 lakh rupees just gone, vanished from your bank account.
Ouch. And the first thing you do is call the airline, the hotel.
Right, and what do you get? It feels like hitting that classic corporate brick wall.
Yep, the fine print.
Yeah.
No refunds, no exceptions. Sorry.
Case closed, you're out of luck. End of story.
That's usually where it ends. Most people would probably just sigh, maybe complain online, but ultimately accept the loss. It feels insurmountable.
Yeah. But what if someone didn't? What if someone actually managed to turn that whole situation around?
Okay.
Armed with nothing more than a doctor's note and, this is the kicker, an AI chatbot.
Seriously, an
Look.
AI chatbot. That sounds a bit sci-fi.
It does, doesn't it? Like something out of a near future novel. But it's a real story. Happened very recently.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack exactly how one traveler, faced with that exact $2,500 loss and those rigid corporate policies, used persistence and, well, ChatGPT to claw back every single dollar.
Wow. Okay. So we need to get into how it happened.
Definitely. How he did it, why this completely unconventional approach actually worked.
And I bet there was some debate about it online.
Oh, yeah. We'll dive into the fiery debate it sparked, especially on Reddit. And crucially, pull out the lessons for you. What does this mean for tackling these kinds of challenges now?
It sounds like a masterclass in using new tools, maybe, and
They're
just
not-
not giving up.
Exactly. Persistence and leveraging new tech. Let's get into it.
So lay out the scene for us. The traveler.
Right. Let's call him Joe, as some reports did. He had everything booked for Medellin. Flights, hotel, the works, all handled through Expedia.
Got it. Standard stuff.
But here's a really critical detail, something that becomes important later. Joe hadn't bought cancellation insurance.
Okay. That's usually the first hurdle. No insurance, no refund. That's the typical line.
Precisely. And the reason he had to cancel wasn't trivial. It was a genuine medical emergency. Generalized anxiety disorder, GAD.
Okay, that's not just feeling a bit nervous.
Yeah.
GAD can be really debilitating.
Exactly. We're talking chronic anxiety, excessive worry, significant physical symptoms sometimes. It can make everyday life incredibly hard, let alone navigating airports and flights.
And he had proof.
Yep. A doctor's note confirming the diagnosis and stating clearly that, at that time, it was severe enough to prevent him from traveling.
So a legitimate medical reason, backed by a doctor, seems straightforward.
You'd think so.
Right.
But he hit that initial wall, the hotel. Strict, no cancellation policy, just flat out. And the airline. Even tougher. Their rules were incredibly rigid. Refunds only for, the most extreme circumstances they listed, death or terminal illness.
Their mental health conditions like GAD.
Weren't on their list. Even with the doctor's note, in their eyes, it just didn't qualify.
So he's looking at losing the whole $2,500.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a serious amount.
It really is. Enough for that high-end coffee machine and a year's beans, as one report amusingly put it.
Right. And at this point, most people just give up. The system seems designed to make you give up.
But this is where Joe took that completely unexpected turn. Instead of just accepting it or even thinking about hiring a lawyer.
Which would cost a fortune, maybe more than the refund itself.
Exactly what he figured. He realized a paralegal alone might cost more. So he didn't do that. He turned to AI. Specifically, ChatGPT 4.0.
Okay, now we're getting to the really interesting part. So he didn't just ask it to write a sad story.
No. This was tactical. He gave it a complex task. He basically fed it all the relevant documents, the dense terms and conditions from Expedia, the hotel's policy, the airline's refund rules, and crucially, that doctor's note about the GHD.
So all the raw data, the rules of the game.
Yep. And the instruction was basically, analyze all this, understand the policies, understand my medical situation from this note, and then draft a persuasive letter arguing why I deserve a refund based on exceptional circumstances.
So using the AI to find the leverage points within their own rules.
Exactly. The AI processed it all, and the first output, a carefully drafted letter. It laid out the situation, cited specific policy points where possible, and built a logical case for an exception.
Clever. So who did he send it to first?
He started with the hotel, sent them the AI drafted letter, their initial reaction. Still resistant, still sticking to the no-way policy.
Predictable, maybe?
Maybe, but something changed after they actually read that letter. The hotel reversed its decision.
Wait, really? Just based on the letter?
Apparently so. They caved, issued a full refund for his stay.
Wow. Okay, so round one goes to Joe and the AI. That must have felt good.
Huge boost, I imagine. But the bigger challenge was still the airline. They were much tougher.
Right, because their policy explicitly excluded GAD. They had that specific line about death or terminal illness only.
Exactly. So this is where Joe's persistence really shines. He didn't just stop after the airline rejected him initially.
Okay, back to the AI.
He did. He took the airline's rejection email or letter, fed that back into ChatGPT.
Okay, and what did he ask it to do this time?
This is the fun part. The first letter didn't work with them, so he basically told the AI, okay, that was too gentle, do it again, but make it stronger. Make it spicier.
Huh.
Make it spicier. I like that. So a more forceful approach.
Exactly. He needed a different angle, something to push back harder against their rigid stance.
And did the AI deliver on the spice?
It seems so. It drafted a second letter that was much more assertive. It didn't just repeat the situation, it directly challenged the airline's policy.
It argued that dismissing GAD outright, especially with a doctor's note, could be seen as discriminatory.
Ooh, okay. That's a strong angle.
Right. And the letter apparently explained why a severe mental health condition like GAD genuinely makes air travel impossible or unsafe for someone. It basically said, your policy ignores the reality of this documented medical condition. It was like a digital David versus Goliath.
Using logic and potentially, well, the threat of a discrimination claim framed by the AI.
Precisely. And the outcome, shockingly fast.
Don't tell me it worked immediately.
Within an hour.
Yeah.
Within 1 hour of sending that second, spicier letter, the airline replied. They folded, agreed to process a full refund for the flight.
Unbelievable. So he got it all back, the entire $2,500.
Every single dollar. Hotel and airline both fully refunded.
That is genuinely incredible. An AI chatbot essentially negotiated back $2,500.
Wild, isn't it? And as you'd expect, a story like this, AI helping the little guy fight the system and win it, blew up.
I bet. Where did it first appear?
It started on Reddit, apparently from the user himself, and then it just took off. Major news outlets picked it up pretty quickly. Hindustan Times, The Economic Times, Lev Mint, all around late May 2025.
And the story held together across these different reports.
Yeah, pretty consistently. The core facts were the same everywhere. Reddit user, Medellín trip, the $2,500 figure, ChatGPT's role, the GAD diagnosis, the doctor's note, Expedia booking, no insurance. The timeline also matched up.
But surely wasn't all positive reactions, especially on Reddit.
Oh, definitely not. It was really polarized. You had loads of people saying, this is genius, or finally, AI helping regular people. Seeing it as like a personal advocate.
But the other side,
Pretty harsh. Comments calling him a liar and a fraud, saying he used ChatGPT to lie.
even though he had a doctor's note.
Yeah. Others argued he didn't deserve the refunds, specifically because he skipped the insurance. Lots of should have bought travel insurance comments.
Fair enough. That's always the counter-argument.
And some people demanded proof, like screenshots of the emails or the chatbot interaction, which he apparently didn't provide, maybe for privacy reasons.
Which probably fueled some skepticism. But it does raise that ethical question, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Was it unethical to use the GAD diagnosis this way, especially without insurance? Some people felt strongly that, yes, it was gaming the system, maybe exploiting a diagnosis to get around policies he'd implicitly agreed to by not buying insurance.
But a counter-argument.
Is that he had a legitimate, documented medical reason preventing travel. He wasn't lying about the condition. He just used a tool, AI, to articulate his case effectively against inflexible corporate policies that maybe should have exceptions for genuine medical issues, even mental health ones.
It really highlights that gray area. Are you exploiting a loophole, or are you justifiably fighting an overly rigid system using the tools available?
Exactly. It's not black and white. People had strong feelings on both sides.
And technically, is it plausible that ChatGPT could actually do this? Write letters persuasive enough to make companies change their minds?
Well, based on what we know about models like GPT-4, yes, it's definitely plausible. Their whole function is processing complex text, understanding context, and generating coherent, persuasive arguments. analyzing legalistic terms and conditions, drafting letters based on specific inputs like a doctor's note. That's right in its wheelhouse.
Have there been other examples like this?
Yeah, there have been reports. I remember one from 2023 about a CEO who used ChatGPT to draft emails that supposedly helped recover over $100,000 in unpaid invoices from a client. So the capability to analyze situations and craft compelling arguments exists.
But it's not magic, right? There are risks.
Hugely important point. AI is not infallible. It can make mistakes, sometimes big ones. Remember that case in 2023? A lawyer got sanctioned because he used ChatGPT and it completely fabricated legal precedents, cited fake cases in a court filing.
Wow, yeah, that's a major error.
It really underscores that the user has to be responsible. You need to verify the output, especially if it's making factual claims or legal arguments.
So in Joe's case, he wasn't asking it to invent anything. He was giving it real documents, the policies, his doctor's note, and asking it to build an argument from those existing facts.
Exactly. That seems to be the key difference. He was using it as a tool to articulate his real situation more effectively.
This feels like it's about more than just one refund, though. It feels like a glimpse into something bigger changing.
I think so too. It's about how AI might change personal advocacy, how individuals interact with big institutions.
Because think about the old way. Fighting a denial like this, you're looking at maybe hiring lawyers, spending ages, understanding complex rules, endless phone calls.
Right. Expensive, time-consuming, often demoralizing. Joe's method. Free, incredibly fast, that 1-hour turnaround with the airline is wild and, well, it worked for him.
And it really shows the AI wasn't acting alone. It was a tool amplifying his effort.
Precisely. His success wasn't just the AI. It was his decision to try it, his persistence when he got rejected, his specific instruction to make it spicier. The AI empowered his determination.
So if we boil this down, what are the key takeaways for listeners?
Okay, I think there are a few. First, understanding your rights or using tools like AI to help you understand the policies you're dealing with is powerful.
Don't just accept confusing jargon.
Right. Second, persistence matters. That first no isn't always the final answer, especially with large organizations.
Third, AI can be a potent ally, but use it smartly, critically. Always verify its output, especially facts.
Definitely. Fourth, documentation is king. That doctor's note was crucial for Joe. Document everything that supports your case in any dispute.
Fifth, maybe an obvious one from the debate around this story.
Yeah.
Consider travel insurance next time. It could save a lot of hassle.
Fair point. And finally, sometimes you do need to be firm. That spicier letter seemed to be what cut through the airline's bureaucracy. A well-supported, assertive argument can make a difference.
Looking ahead, though, this does open a can of worms, doesn't it, if everyone starts doing this?
Yeah, the ease of generating these persuasive appeals is interesting. Does it raise the risk of manipulation? Could people use it to generate misleading claims more easily?
That's a concern.
Yeah.
And how will companies react? Will they just make their policies even tighter, more loophole-proof? Demand even more proof?
It could become this kind of tech arms race, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Individuals using AI to challenge, companies using maybe AI or stricter rules to push back. A game of cat and mouse.
We're already seeing AI used in related areas, right? Like debt recovery, drafting basic legal docs, challenging parking tickets.
Absolutely. Some legal tech platforms are even building AI prompts directly into their services now.
This case with Joe, it doesn't feel like a weird one-off. It feels like a signpost towards a future, where maybe we all have AI sidekicks helping us navigate bureaucracy, argue minor disputes, advocate for ourselves day to day.
It's a compelling thought. So just to wrap up the core elements, we had the traveler, the medical issue, the $2,500 about to be lost, the corporate no, and then this unlikely AI advocate stepping in.
And the key insight really is about that potential shift in power. AI giving individuals tools to analyze, argue, and challenge big entities more effectively than maybe ever before.
Right. Tools that used to require expensive professionals might become accessible to anyone with an internet connection and the persistence to use them.
It definitely leaves you thinking. As these AI tools get better and easier to use, how might you listening use them to advocate for yourself? In what situations?
And what are those bigger ripple effects if this becomes a common tactic? It really forces us to think about technology, our rights, and those walls of corporate policy